How explosive are your shots? Definitely more explosive than in Midnight because explosive shot is gone. Wait, that's not a good thing. But aim shot now takes way longer to cast. Wait a minute. Listen, I swear, marksmanship is not that bad. If anything, it's one of the most satisfying versions I have personally played, so let me tell you what has changed. First of all of the class tree went through a few changes already from our previous Hunter videos. Horsehair Tether is now officially a Hunter talent and no longer a pack leader only mechanic. Arguably the most popular hero talent ever received, so that's great! A decent amount of work has been done to the survivability of Hunters as well. Touch of Grass gives you a flat 10% more HP, Shell Wall makes Aspect of the Turtle way more impactful as a defensive, which for a defensive that prevents you from attacking should more or less make you immune, but Guardian's Hide is also an interesting node that probably works best for marksmanship since your owl is considered your pet and for gameplay purposes, it doesn't really have HP, so it wouldn't matter how much damage it takes. Lastly, not really tied to survivability, but with Guttural Roar, your pet stun becomes an AoE one. This might have mixed applications since as far as AoE stuns are concerned, it would be the weakest in the game so far, but for a stop on casts in dungeons or open world content, it will be pretty good. Let's move on to the hero talents. Sentinel got the most changes and they align the best with the new class philosophy of pruning and getting rid of all of the buffs and auras to track which you needed add-ons for. The actual Sentinel mechanic changed to work on your Spotter's Mark, which for Sentinel, it will be replaced by Sentinel's Mark, and boost your aim shot damage even more. The kicker is with the Capstone Lunar Storm that is now not tied to a timer you would need to track. Instead, it procs damage ticks on your enemies when your mark is consumed. Since the mark is so strong, this might have more serious gameplay implications that we will discuss later on. For now, I just wanted to ask you that if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and a subscribe. It helps us grow, helps the video grow, and you would be doing us a big solid. And if you want to be more involved and directly support this video, consider becoming a Patreon. Patreons make a lot of these videos possible and they get some special perks as well. Thank you and enjoy the rest of this video. As part of the 3 new nodes that the hero talents got, Sentinel has Moonlight Chakram, which is basically the old Chakram we used to have. It's just your true shot after you already pressed it. It deals damage and that's about it. It gets an upgrade choice node where Twilight Requiem makes it explode at the end and deal quite a bit of AoE damage, while Stalk and Strike makes it give you lock and load, arguably the cooler interaction of the two. Radiant Edge just makes its damage ticks increase with each bounce. Dark Ranger didn't get much apart from kill shot being basically a marksmanship only thing. The 3 nodes are mostly passive damage. Corpse Caller summons a dark minion on a chance when Black Arrow's dot ticks. Pact of the Hollow makes your aim shots force your minion to also fire blighted arrows that does a fuck ton of damage on up to 8 enemies, while Wailing Dead brings back Wailing Arrow in a similar fashion to Chakram. Once you press your true shot, it gets replaced with a castable Wailing Arrow that deals damage and interrupts and silences enemies. Although the utility of this is debatable since the damage it deals is really high and you just want it out as soon as you cannot argue with its thematic value and how appropriate it is for Dark Ranger and why wasn't it introduced so far. Now we move on to the real meat and the potatoes that so far have hit with very mixed opinions. As a reminder, the goal the devs have for the pruning is to reduce needless complexity that has grown to require add-ons, tracking multiple buffs and auras. Ironically, you'll be using your cooldown manager for that very thing still, but granted, way fewer things to track in Midnight. Streamline is gone. There we go, the band-aid has been ripped. Streamline was the main contributor to your aimed shots coming out quick and making the spec fluid. So with this gone, aimed shot is considerably slower and you will in fact spend more time casting it. As a response to it, the damage of it was buffed, and it was buffed good. It does a ridiculous amount of damage, and since we get our number squished in Midnight and a specific one won't tell you much, think about it in these terms. The War Within aim shot does 503% of your current attack power in damage. In Midnight, it does 700%. Moving from 500 to 700 might not seem like much, but you do have to remember you still have quite a few damage amps to aim shot that happen from other parts of the talent tree, which end up in way more damage than you can imagine. So far, it deals drastically more than Black Arrow, which is definitely not the case for the War Within version of Marksmanship. Not chilling for the change, by the way, just pointing out that it feels really good to launch aim shots in Midnight. Now, whether or not the combat encounters will allow you that freedom is indeed a point of concern that we can discuss at a later date, because right now, it seems fine. Explosive Shot is also gone. The only remnants of it will be the talent Salvo. As of recording this video, there are 2 talent capstones still missing. Not sure if one of them will be Explosive Shot, but if it will, then it would make sense as to why Salvo was kept into the game. As a result, Shrapnel Shot is now a volley capstone, moving the lock and load proc to volley from Explosive Shot. The rest of the talents are less important right now, since I'm not sure any of them changed, and most of them are likely to be knobs of tuning to make sure aim shot fits in this new rotation smoothly. Hopefully. The Apex talents though might just be the best ones yet. First of all, they each have a different name. Crazy world, I know. Marksmanship is the only spec with its Apex talents being distinctly named. Blood Impact feels like the old Razor Fragments, but it works with lock and load and surging shots on top of Death Blow, and the bleed is applied by their respective affected spells, as in Aim Shot, Rapid Fire, and Kill Shot. More interesting for sure, but not entirely new yet. Heightened Senses increases your damage to the targets affected by the bleed, while Hunter's Reap is the real kicker. When you consume one of these 3 procs, you have a 25% chance to gain one of the other 2. This is similar to the old Warrior Legendary end mechanic of pressing a big cooldown and getting one of the other 2 specs major cooldown effect as well. But here, it's a big RNG, and this is on top of a decent amount of RNG around Black Arrow procs that has been a point of contention with Marksmanship Hunters in the War Within. Of course, 100% proc chance is better than 25%, but realistically speaking, having no RNG on a crucial new mechanic would do a lot of heavy lifting to alleviate some of the frustrations Hunters have been dealing with, on top of slowing down the game drastically with Streamline being deleted. All of these being said, I actually enjoyed Marksmanship, although I do consider myself as a minority when it comes to some of these things and gameplay mechanics. I'm different, I'm weird, I know. I actually don't mind that aim shot is casted way slower, since it is an impactful button, and it feels good when I launch one out. I can only hope that the gameplay is slowed down to the point where I can afford to cast them. If this were War Within, it would feel awful to play with how many dodgeable mechanics we have to juggle, just to be able to cast even a streamlined aim shot. I can't say it feels fluid to play, however, since every other marksmanship mechanic is pretty fast. The loop feels like it's shifting from 2nd gear to 6th gear to 2nd gear again quite often, and I can imagine not everyone would be a fan of this. It is simpler to play though, you need to manage fewer procs and mechanics, and this is indeed the goal. However, it feels like they gave us something with one hand and take something else with the other. A consistent theme with some of the spec reworks that we have seen so far in Midnight. One thing that I wish to be changed is the talent No Scope. As someone who tested this on alpha with no theory crafted knowledge and just relying on building what seemed to make sense, at least in terms of talent, No Scope sounds like something I want. However, in AoE, it just doesn't work. The main gameplay of Marksmanship is to use aimed shot as your big hitter, which creates the precise shots buff. You then consume this buff with Arcane Shot or Multi-Shot, which in turn gives you a chance to spawn the Spotter's Mark, or Sentinel's Mark if you play the respective hero talent. The problem with this is you want to follow that up with an aim shot again. In AoE, you would ideally cast a rapid fire to maybe buff up your aim shot with bullet storm, then you use multi-shot that will consume the one precise shot charge that rapid fire gave you, and may or may not also give you spotter's mark in return on your target. After that, you aim shot, which gives you precise shots again, then multi-shot to enable trick shots again that may once again give you a spotter's mark. If you would rapid fire here, provided it's not on cooldown, you would generate a precise shot that would have to be consumed again with multi-shot that could override spotter's mark from before that hasn't yet been consumed by aimed shot. The answer would be simple. Don't play no scope, which even in single target has a chance to put you in a situation where you might munch your own buffs, since spotter's mark and precise shots don't stack as high as you would need them to prevent that from happening. Making them stack more could solve this and give you more freedom to min-max those procs, but that also sounds like it wouldn't align with the pruning philosophy. But at the same time, no-scope might create bad habits or traps for new players, or at the very least be counterintuitive as a talent choice. This is even a bigger problem for Sentinel. Speaking of, I played Sentinel with this build. Since I was in Dark Ranger and kill shot is actually tuned real low, I had no incentive to pick any of those talents. The Apex talents were not enabled anyway, so that opened up a few more single target focus nodes that I took from the bottom left side of the talent tree. The only real issue here was the no-scope talent, which made me choose between munching precise shots, Sentinel's mark, or capping rapid fire cooldown. I decided rapid fire would have to take the hit and be my bullet storm generator, and that was about it. Precise shots that feed into Sentinel's mark, which feed into aim shot and lunar storm, felt way more important. For my Ranger build, it was a bit older in the alpha stages, but still very similar since nothing changed since then. It felt way better and way simpler to play, and actually I liked that I could play a playstyle that required minimal management of buffs and procs outside pressing Black Arrow when it was ready. Taking away the necessity of using multi-shot for trick shots was very helpful and just made Arcane Shot a big single target hitter alongside my other two main spells. Of course, none of these builds are recommendations or suggestions. We put them on screen so you understand what you are looking at in terms of gameplay, and to also see what a new player's experience might look like trying to choose their talents with no guides or simming, which should be the end goal of all of these reworks. We do this stuff on stream at twitch.tv/Marcelian&Flame, and you can catch me live 5 days a week, racking my brain on how to improve and be a better player. I see where they want to go with marksmanship, and I support it. I enjoy having meaty and impactful buttons like the new aimed shot, so long as I don't have to cancel every other cast because of an insane amount of swirlies and frontals that I would need to dodge. We will get beta soon, depending on when you watch this video, with Mythic Plus and rating as testing grounds, as well as finalized versions of Apex talents. That should paint a better picture of how marksmanship is going to look like when the expansion launches, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, check out our most pruned DPS ranking so you see what we mean about this new direction of class reworks, and maybe then you will get a bigger appreciation for where marksmanship is compared to every other spec.